First off, I'd like to say thank you to Shabana, Mary, and Malala for their wonderful words. And a lot of this brings a full circle in a way. The first time I met Malala was here at the Skoll World Forum. She had just won the Nobel Peace Prize, and I think she was 15 or around that. And she came in, and I remember she had index cards, and they were written in like colored marker or something like that. And right afterwards, I went to congratulate her on her speech. She was a Global Treasure Award winner, and she had no idea who I was or what anything of this was about. And later, a participant made a movie on Malala called He Named Me Malala. So there's a history of film, storytelling, women's rights, girls' education, Malala attended school here, as many of you know, so it all comes full circle. Now it is my honor to introduce Mike Milken. I imagine many of you know the name Mike Milken, but may not realize that Mike has quietly been one of the most impactful philanthropists in the world. Mike has spent decades channeling his energy and resources and solving some of humanity's greatest challenges, including medical research, education, and public health. His journey as a philanthropist began as a young man, rooted in a belief that everyone deserved the tools to thrive. I first met Mike 15 years ago through the Giving Pledge. For those of you that might not know, the Giving Pledge was started by Bill and Melinda Gates and Warren Buffett to encourage wealthy individuals to pledge to give at least half of their wealth to charity during their lifetime or at time of death. So Mike and I had the pleasure of getting to know each other as we prepared to speak on the very first panel of the Giving Pledge's inaugural annual meeting. Since that time, I've come to realize Mike is always the smartest guy in the room. His hand is always first in the air, and his questions stand out for their intelligence and wisdom. After we met, I started going to Mike's global conference in LA. I went many times. With 5,000 attendees, this conference brings together the best and brightest from education, health, politics, entrepreneurs, and innovators. And if anyone has cracked the code for convening people to create a sustainable world of peace and prosperity for all, it's Mike. He's also extremely kind and cares deeply about people. I'm not sure a lot of people know that. When I was on my first major medical leave in 2017, 2018, Mike would often call just to check in, see if I needed anything, just to see how I was doing. His compassion and generosity extends beyond his friends and family. And I've seen firsthand his willingness to help people with advice, guidance, connections, resources, total strangers. And for someone so busy to personally take the time to help people one-on-one is simply remarkable. Mike co-founded the Milken Family Foundation with his brother Lowell in 1982 to empower people through education and health initiatives. Its work has been transformative. The Prostate Cancer Foundation, which he established in 1993 after his own diagnosis, is the world's largest philanthropic funder of prostate cancer research and has made innovations that have slashed death rates and revolutionized treatment. His work with faster cures has also pushed the boundaries of medical collaboration, speeding up solutions to countless diseases. Education is another cornerstone of Mike's work. The Milken Educator Awards, often called the Oscars of teaching, have honored thousands of exceptional teachers and elevated the profession of inspiring future generations. The Milken Scholars Program supports outstanding students with scholarships and mentorships, unlocking their potential to lead and innovate. Mike's fierce commitment to protecting global health was critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic, Mike and I talked at least once a week to coordinate on what we had learned that week and what we could do to direct resources and expedite solutions. I remember one time we had a big interview on, I think it was CNN or ABC, big network in the US, and I had to get my neighbor to stop jackhammering the new house that he was building next door, and there was nowhere else to go during COVID. So anyway, he stopped jackhammering. We did our thing. But Mike's leadership, his insight, and his expertise have been invaluable as we worked to support the pandemic, and his philanthropy exemplifies a rare blend of vision and execution. Mike once said, "The greatest asset is human capital." And through his tireless work, he's not just preserving that asset, he's multiplying it, creating a healthier, smarter, and more equitable world for us all. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm taking a long time to make Mike's introduction, it's because I've attended so many panels and presentations with Mike where he has introduced the speaker and he has taken the time to thoroughly get the audience acquainted with that person's work and what they do and personal things about them. So without further ado, please help me celebrate this extraordinary change maker.
So kind.
So good. I'm so glad you're here, Mike. Welcome, welcome. Have a seat.
So Jeff, you're so modest, but your health is so important to the world.
Well,
your commitment. So an investment in you is an investment in the world, Jeff.
Mike, that's, yeah, see, I told you Mike is so kind. So Mike, here we are. I've attended so many of your convenings. They've been wonderful. And we're at the Skoll World Forum in a room full of social entrepreneurs and other innovators. And I would place a bet that most here today didn't realize how much you do in philanthropy. What started you in philanthropy?
I think what started me was my family. My mother died in childbirth. His father died a couple years later in an automobile accident. And he was constantly telling us that for us to have a good life and our children and his grandchildren, the whole effort was that everyone felt they needed to have a chance. So it was that drilled into me at the dinner table when I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old as to how do people feel that they have a chance to participate? And it's interesting, Jeff, we've been doing these surveys now for a long period of time. What is the dream? The idea of the American dream. But what is the dream in Vietnam, etc.? And the number one answer for the last 49 consecutive surveys is freedom to live your life. And we just heard a story related to Afghanistan where 50% of the population at least does not have freedom to live their life. And so to me, that was kind of the goal. And then each of us has events in their life that changes their life. So my first life-changing event was 1957.
Wow.
When most of our audience was not born. And it was Sputnik going up. It was the middle of the Cold War. And people believe that if you could send this thing up around Earth, then you could drop nuclear bombs, etc. So we had these duck and cover drills in school. I don't know if they had them in Canada or not.
Yeah.
And I remember it took almost 2 weeks for my 5th grade teacher and myself to make a deal. She would not try to convince me I'd be safe under my desk if a bomb dropped on Hesby Street Elementary School, and I wouldn't disrupt the class. So my goal was to run our space program. I wrote a letter to the president. I never heard back. I was 11. But, then something happened. I went to Berkeley to get prepared to run the space program. And then the Watts riots occurred in Los Angeles. And I don't know if people around the world knew this, but I met a young African-American man who told me he would never be able to borrow money or no one would give him capital because of the color of his skin. Sounded awful irrational to me at that time. And I went back to Berkeley, changed my major, and I began to study credit. And I was 19 years old, and after looking at the data and the facts, I discovered everything that everyone said about credit was wrong. The head of the Federal Reserve, the head of the Treasury, everything they were saying based on history and facts was wrong. So I decided we're now going to make access to capital available to people like you and others. And so that little revolution took about a decade. And then I think it was John Lennon that said, life gets in the way when you're doing something else. And then my family, children, parents, had serious life-threatening diseases. And so I had to focus now on medical research. And when I discovered that medical research could not move fast enough to save my father's life, I concluded that the whole paradigm of how we approach medical research was too long, and we had to change that. So I was thrust into that. And I'd say the last piece, so entrepreneurs, finance, medical, was I moved about 1,200 people across the country in the late 1970s, and I wanted our children, my wife and Lori and I, to know my father before he died. And I thought I had done everything for every employee, every significant other, job, house, religious institutions, and I discovered we had not focused enough on education. So the fourth leg of this chair came in that we really needed to do something about education. So each of these things in your life, you're headed in one direction and then something else happens.
It's amazing, and as I understand it, your family was not a wealthy family. It wasn't particularly running a large foundation.
No, I didn't have the disadvantage of being born into a wealthy family, and I say that seriously.
Yeah.
When I interact with students around the world, I often think about who is there because of their ability and who is there because of their family. Then I try to figure out how many years will it be before that person of a family of wealth is going to be working for that person with a family of talent. And so there are a lot of challenges in the world we see. Countries that are based on natural resource have a significant disadvantage in many ways. But you and I know a lot of people in the Giving Pledge that have wealth, and yeah. I would say to you there's no correlation that says wealth equals happiness or productivity.
And even as a young man growing up in a strong family, a strong nuclear family, but I imagine philanthropy was not something talked about at the dinner table, but doing good to other
I think,
might have been.
this is an assembly of such amazing people here, Jeff.
Yes.
It's taken me now 20 years to get an invitation.
Well, we depended on the U.S. Postal Service. So.
But giving of yourself. So philanthropy in the United States has increased about 75% in the last decade. Last year was $550 billion. But if you calculated hourly rates and what people gave of their time, it's trillions of dollars. So
Right.
Giving of your time, your knowledge, your expertise, commitment far exceeds the giving of money. And the mentors, you talked about our scholar program. It's interesting. So we've identified children 16 or 17 years old, primarily first or second generation Americans. They and their parents have come from 80 countries. And they have economic challenges, but we stay with them the rest of their life. So our oldest group is about to turn 52 years old.
Wow.
And I would say to you, we can help them in college, we help them with jobs and on-term, but the most important thing I've learned over the last 40 some odd years is that we created a social service safety net. And so we've created a family around them, and due to their challenges in growing up, a lot of them have a lot of issues later in life, but that safety net of a lot of people giving their time and supporting them has allowed them to propel in their lifetime, and we have a 99% success rate. But if it wasn't for that mentoring social service safety net, that would not have happened.
There are so many aspects to your philanthropy, the work you do, I described before you came out. But there's a special project in D.C. that you've been working on for 10 years and has taken a lot of your time and resources. Wonder if you could tell our audience what that project is and why it was important to you.
I couldn't be more proud of having you as my partner in that project. About 14 years ago, I became very concerned about what I saw as not only the direction of the United States, but the world, and young people feeling they were losing hope. So the concept of the American dream really never appeared to 1931, and it was an individual whose family had come from Venezuela. And it was an idea of a dream where it wasn't whether you're a man or a woman, it wasn't who your parents were, it wasn't where you went to school, it wasn't your religion, but it was a land that you could rise up in your lifetime to your fullest ability, determination, persistence, etc. That was the idea behind it. And so I felt not only the United States, but it was being questioned around the world. And so what we needed to do was build a shrine. I've been to India a number of times. They have some great shrines. We needed to build a shrine. And we needed to build it across from the White House and the Treasury. And so we bought in a series of foundations every building that wasn't a federal building. And if I wanted to give you the number one symbol of it, Jeff, in 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And shortly thereafter, Germany declared war on the United States, actually before the United States entered World War II. And you were not allowed to have light at night in Washington, D.C. So to protect yourself from German bombers or other things, in 1942, light went out at night in Washington, D.C. So we've spent a decade rebuilding a ley light, the original ley light. And on July 4th, hopefully you'll be there, we're going to let light shine back again for the first time in 83 years. And we hope it can shine to the entire world. So we are filming 10,000 people, as you know, Jeff, as to what is their dream, whether they're in Zambia or Vietnam or wherever they might be in the world. And so we film people from 100 countries. And what we hope is, whether you visit us digitally or whether you visit us physically, that you will find your dream in another person's story. And so we have really focused on many people that overcame unbelievable obstacles. And so what we're hoping is this will be a symbol of light, but also symbol of hope to the world, that these are examples of individuals living in more than 100 countries that overcame challenges and were able to achieve their dream. So I'm sure, Jeff, your dream, might be to be able to play on the ice for the Washington Capitals. So it's not money. What's so interesting is the last thing, the least percentage, only 16% of people define their dream as becoming wealthy. 16%. And so you see, whether you're in Cambodia or whether you're in South Africa, that there's a similarity. And the number one similarity is freedom. Freedom to live your life.
Yes. So
that's the challenge. Hopefully will last as long as the United States lasts.
Well, we're well said. So the center, the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, has 4 pillars, abbreviated: education, public health, financial empowerment, and entrepreneurship and innovation. And last autumn, we met numerous times to see how I could assist in the center. When I asked you if social entrepreneurs and innovators had a place in the entrepreneurship wing of the center, you immediately responded yes. And we began to plan a partnership between the Skoll Foundation and the center to include and program social entrepreneurs into the center. What led you to believe that social entrepreneurs would fit in the entrepreneurship wing of the museum?
70 years of personal experience, I would say. We all choose our path in life if we have the freedom to do that. And individuals who are entrepreneurs could be working in government, could be working in healthcare, could be working in education, they became working everywhere. I remember the leading school in our country for children with learning disabilities. I met the founder by accident one day at an event we were putting on, and one of the students from the school was having a seizure. And I didn't know the headmaster of the school, and she didn't know who I was. And I rushed over to help this child. And she rushed over also. And I met her. Her name was Dr. Barbara Firestone. And she was running the leading school for kids with learning disabilities. And so backing her as a social entrepreneur, they had 300 students. Today they have 6,000 students. I taught school there for a couple years, and I got quite a lesson in teaching autistic kids as to how you approach it. I had a class that she gave me of 14 kids, of which 13 had tried to commit suicide when they walked into my class. But I learned a lot from them. They learned a lot from me. But it was her. It was nothing more than her. And so As I look today and the challenges many people here are going to be discussing this week, of where is funding coming from, etc. My view is we kind of need to look to the future. And we can't look to the past. And what do we know today? We know today that the baby boomers just in the United States are going to pass on $80 trillion. And my guess is at least half will be passed on to philanthropy. At 5% for $4 trillion, that's $2 trillion a year. Is it going to be productive, what they do? You know, with philanthropy, Jeff, you and I have talked about this. It's kind of like your oath as a doctor, do no harm. And so we created this Center for Strategic Philanthropy that Melissa Stevens has come. She got an invitation for 5 years. This is my first that she runs. But so many people that are wealthy want to do something when something happens. They don't necessarily have knowledge, and that's why you have this session. If they could turn to people that have addressed the issues, saw what happened in the past. And so our goal was, what's going on in the world? Who's ever worked on this? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Can we identify best practices? And so we've given birth to a number of disease-specific foundations over the years. Just one was the Melanoma Research Alliance. So when my father died of melanoma in the late 1970s, almost nothing had happened until 2007. Since then, enormous breakthroughs with this organization. The death rate is down 50%. People with stage 4 that used to have 60 days life expectancy are living normal lives today in total remission. But you had a focused idea of what you wanted to accomplish, and you survey the world and everything that had been done so you didn't duplicate it. So to me today, it's this philanthropy that's going to explode. Yes, the U.S. gave $550 billion last year, but it's going to be $2 trillion. And what can you help them make their philanthropy productive? It's no different than a for-profit CEO. You and I are looking for investments. Can we find that entrepreneur that's going to build a business, etc.? We need to find those social entrepreneurs that can change society, particularly if we help them with financial capital. And I'd say the other major thing I don't think people focus on enough is crowdsourcing. So it's amazing what you can do in crowdsourcing. You don't necessarily know who in the world has the answer to your problem. And I'll just give you one very short example before we run out of time. We had an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which the President of the United States is thinking of renaming the Gulf of the United States, but right now it's still the Gulf of Mexico. And Exxon, the world's largest company, BP, British largest company, everyone was trying to solve this problem. And it took a long time, and the cost was $50 to $60 billion. So there was a simple crowdsourcing effort put out for a few $1 million. Can you clean up oil spills better than any company or any government in the world? And a lot of people tried, but there were 7 people that could do it better than anyone. And when I'm saying one of those 7, I don't know if I told you that story, ran a tattoo parlor in Las Vegas, okay? So there's this phrase in Las Vegas in America, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, okay? So his tattoo parlor was built to take tattoos off your body. So if you woke up in the morning, had a tattoo, you're going to leave, he took them off your body. But what he used to take tattoos off your skin was useful in taking oil out of water. Now, no one would have hired this person or ever found this person. And so we've launched now with the Mosepi family these crowdsourcing for Sub-Saharan Africa, for agriculture, for green energy, and for fintech. 9,000 entrepreneurs have applied. About a third nonprofit social entrepreneurs, about 6,000, 127 countries, 6 continents to solve these problems. They might have invested hundreds of millions of dollars to win a $2 million prize. But you've discovered people throughout the world that you would have never found from that standpoint. And I mentioned Sub-Saharan Africa in that my bias, as you know, is it might not make any difference what you do in the world if you can't solve the challenges of Sub-Saharan Africa. 19 of the 20 countries, 19 of the 20 countries with the highest birth rate are all in Sub-Saharan Africa. The only one we just heard about was Afghanistan. It isn't. Where the children are, where they're going to be living, what are the opportunities, what are the hundreds of millions of jobs that have to be created. We've made enormous advances with healthcare, so children live longer. We've gone from 1 in 2 children dying before their 5th birthday to a longer life. We've solved AIDS for so many of the people there where it's dominant. But what are they going to be doing? Are the best and brightest going to all leave and go someplace else in the world? Today in the United States, there are more people that were born in Sub-Saharan Africa than were born in Europe. At one time, 75% of everyone not born in the United States was born in Europe. Today, it's 9%. So those thousands of Nigerians or people from Ghana, etc., have come to the U.S. with the belief that they'll have a better chance, but they're not necessarily going to be having that opportunity to help build their country. So access to capital. So what's our solution? We did this deal with the World Bank and IFC, International Finance Corp, where we're going to train 1,000 future financial leaders in these countries, emerging countries, so that they can be the counterparty. They're going to be honest. They're going to care about their country. And you can, if you want to do a deal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope. You know, I think you and I, Jeff, believe we've both had some life-threatening diseases in our lifetime, but we both have hope. And I think providing access to capital in this forum in these challenging times, as I just wanted to really come and tell you, there is enormous opportunities and hope, and that a lot of people are fully aware of the challenges and will rise up to find solutions for you.
So examples of Mike's modesty and philanthropy. In the last few minutes, he talked about his work in cancer and melanoma, driving death rates down by 50%. He talked about these compacts that would focus on Sub-Saharan Africa and the issues there that have been neglected for so long. There are a million facts that Mike can drop, and each one just sort of goes by, but you realize it affects thousands or millions of people. And they're all
hundreds of millions.
And they're all. I mean, the scale is it sort of slips by you, and you realize the scale of all the things Mike is doing. Now in D.C., the new museum called the
New Center.
Okay.
It's alive.
Yep. The new center
if you're going to come and learn all about the Skoll social entrepreneurs who want to be alive.
And it opens July 4th.
Yep.
And it's beautiful, modern. We'll have the stories of social entrepreneurs programmed, the whole space. It's beautiful. It's, as Mike said, it's just down from Congress, from the White House, across from the Treasury. Beautiful space. It's taken 10 years, countless amount of dollars and time and effort on your part. And we've always hoped that we would be able to convene social entrepreneurs more than just at Oxford once a year, but at other parts of the world. And so we hope that the new museum in DC will become a second home for us to do convenings around, around gender or geography or issue areas. And this will be a very different experience from Oxford, but an incredible one that we've been hoping for many, many years. And so all roads are leading to social entrepreneurs storming DC. All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike, so much. Beautiful.